Hi, my name is Muhammad Naufal Dulianto with the name 1020223400417.
Hello, my name is M.Haris with name of 102022340037.
Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Yazrak Saputra and my name is 1020223400265.
Hello, my name is William Jerry Cook. My NIM is 1020223400426, and today we are going to be presenting about our final project for this class. So I'm going to be presenting about the pseudocode for our program. So I'll begin by saying what the task for this program is. So basically, it's to create a program that is capable of managing and tracking parking spaces. So what we mean by this is that when a user or a person enters the parking lot, the program needs to be able to calculate how long they have occupied that parking space based off when they entered and left. Furthermore, it needs to calculate how much the cost will be based on a set of given parameters. So it needs to be able to calculate how much the user has to pay when they leave. And lastly, the program needs to provide an admin menu. So this menu allows the user to access it with a password. And when they access it, they can change things such as parking fees, and they can also view the entire transaction history of people leaving and entering. So there are a couple modules we use. So there's just two modules we use basically. So the first one is called time. So this module allows us to include time as a variable or include time as a value that the code recognizes. So it allows the user to enter, and with the time module allows that time to be recorded, and same thing when the user exits. And then so the math module is used just basically for rounding. It allows us to round the numbers and keep it neat and coherent. And then so I will go over the several functions we've created. So we've created three. This top one, the functions will be explained further when the codes are presented, but I'll just say the general purpose of each function. So this first one is used to calculate how long the parking time was for each specific user. And it does this with two variables. The second function basically converts this time to minutes. So with the time module, it's not in minutes, but with this function, it allows us to convert it to minutes. And this function allows us to calculate parking prices because the longer the user stays in the parking space, it increases the price of that fee. So this function allows us to calculate the fee. And then we have several variables. So vehicle list, this is very important because this is basically the list or database that we use to record users entering the parking lot and allows them to exit the parking lot. And we have vehicle list admins, basically serves the same purpose, but this allows the admin to view it in the admin menu. And we have park fee equals 10,000. Although this can be changed in the admin menu, it's 10,000 initially. So here we have the pseudocode for our project. So basically the use of the pseudocode is to get a general idea of the purpose of each line of code. So that's exactly what I'm going to be presenting. So I won't present the specifics of each line, but I will go through the overall general use of it, of each line. So at the beginning of the code, we need to establish a main menu. So the purpose of steps 1 and 2 is to print the main menu and to print each section of it. Then step number 3 is we request the user to input a selection, like they need to choose what submenu they want to go to, and we're going to be using the select variable for that. So now I'm going to be going over what happens in each menu that the user selects. So if the user selects menu 1, then several steps will happen. So first they have to input their vehicle plate number, and this is the variable for it, plate number enter. And then when they enter their plate number, it will be appended or added to two databases, vehicle list and vehicle list admin. And then we will implement the time function or module so we can start to calculate the time, and it'll be set to the variable parking duration start. And then when that last step is finished, please enter will be printed, which basically tells the user that they're finished, and they'll be returned back to the main menu. So now if the user selects option number 2, the code will check if the vehicle list is empty. And then if it's not empty, it will continue by printing the vehicle list through this line of code, which will be explained further later. And then the time module will be imported so we can calculate when the user is leaving, because the purpose of this menu is for the user leaving the parking lot. And then several things will happen. First, the function calculate park minutes will be used. So it's basically going to calculate the time the user entered and left in order to come up with a time in minutes. And it'll print that time so the user can see it. Then it'll print the parking fee that the user has to pay through this function, calculate park fee. And then the user will input money, and then it'll calculate if the user has, number one, inputted enough money, and then if they have, then it'll calculate and print the change the user needs to pay or the user will receive. And then we have an error if the user doesn't provide enough money, and it'll say insufficient funds, and then it will repeat and ask the user to re-input the payment. And then number 3 is the admin menu. So several things will happen in the admin menu. So number 1, we needed to establish the variable attempt, and we needed to set it to 0 because this helps the code to limit the number of attempts the user has to enter their password. So we have the enter password input, and then we set the password to 123, password 123. And then so several steps will happen if the user inputs that password exactly. So we needed to establish the admin menu by printing the menu and its submenus. Then the user selects the menu they want. And then if they select the first one, it basically just prints the vehicle list that it gets from the database, vehicle list admin. If they choose number 2, it allows them to change the park fee. If they choose number 3, it returns them back to the main menu. And if they choose number 4, it exits the entire program. But if the user inputs the password incorrectly, it will add an attempt. And then if they use too many attempts, it will say that they have used too many attempts and return them back to the main menu. And then there's also checks for if the user inputs a valid menu. So that means they can only input 1, 2, 3, or 4. If they input any number other than that, then it will break the program loop and cause them not to be able to access the menu. So I'll also be presenting about the flowchart for our project. Now the flowchart is very important because it allows us to visualize and allows the person viewing this flowchart to visualize the processes and the checks that the code uses throughout the program. So the start basically just means the beginning of the code. So it starts off with the main menu, as I explained in the pseudocode. Now the first check that it has is if the user has inputted a number between 0 to 3. If that doesn't happen, that means it's basically an invalid code because as you can see the choices, you only have 3 choices. You have 1, 2, and 3, and that's what the code depends on to make its choice and to lead to the next submenu. So if the user hasn't selected a number between 0 and 3, it will route back to the main menu and print the text saying invalid option, please choose a valid menu. But however, if the user inputs a number between 1 and 3, it will continue on and the user can input one of these 3 choices. So I'll start with if the user inputs option 1, so they'll be asked to enter their plate number, and then 3 things will actually happen. So firstly, the plate number will be recorded into the vehicle list database as well as the admin database, and also the plate number will be initiated by the time module, which will then set the time that the user has entered, so we can calculate the fees later. So after the user has inputted their plate number, they will be led to option 2. So the first check is if the vehicle list is empty, if there's any entries in that vehicle list. If there isn't, then a value error will be raised and it will print the error saying there's no vehicles entered yet, and they'll be rerouted back to option 2. But if there is an entry in the vehicle list, it'll print it, and then the user will enter the number they want to exit with, and then it will check if that number that the user inputted matches any in the vehicle list, and if it does not, then it will say invalid vehicle plate number, and they'll also be rerouted to option 2. But if the number matches 1 in the entry list, then it will use the calculate park minutes function, which will be explained further later on, which will then lead to the parking fees being calculated based off time elapsed. And then at the end, it will request the user to input their payment. After the user inputs their payment, what needs to be calculated is if the user has, number 1, inputted enough payment, if the payment is sufficient, and also needs to calculate the user's change. So the first check that happens, it checks if the change that has been calculated is greater than or equal to the total payment. If that has not occurred, then it will tell the user that the funds are not sufficient and they'll be rerouted back to the payment screen. However, if the payment is sufficient, then several things will happen. Basically, the user will receive their change, like their change will be printed so the user can view it, and then they'll be looped back to the main menu to select another option or just to leave. So now if the user inputs option number 3, this is basically the admin menu. So for that menu, there's an overall variable and check. So basically we wanted to limit the number of attempts the user has. So throughout this entire code, it will check if the attempts are less than or equal to 3. So if the attempts are less than or equal to 3, the code will continue. So the first step is that the user will have to enter their PIN, and that is where the next check occurs. If the PIN is incorrect, it will tell the user that the password is incorrect, and the attempts will go up by 1. So the reason that occurs is because we need the attempts to count so it can be limited. But however, if the password matches the set password exactly, then several things will happen. So the admin menu will appear with the given options, and the user will be requested to select an option. So then the next check will occur, where the user will be requested to select a number between 1 and 4, because that's the only options the user has. If they do not, they will say that they have selected an invalid option and be returned back to the main menu. However, if they did, each option has its own steps. So option number 1 is basically to print the vehicle list admin, which is the database where all of the entries are stored back in step 1, or option main menu 1. And then option 2, it basically allows the user to change the value for park fee. And then option 3, it allows the user to return back to the admin menu. And then option number 4, it allows the user to exit the program entirely. Now for options 1, 2, and 3, it will always return back to the initial main menu. And that is it for the flowchart.
So right now we are going to explain about our Python code on our system on parking space system. So first thing is they are import time and import map. Import time is to about in our way to import the time on helping us to figure out how long the vehicle have sat in the parking space. And the second one is the import math. Import math is a way to import the function of the mathematics that we will going to use in the next function.
Okay, next, firstly, we have a while true statement here. The code inside the loop will run indefinitely until it encounters a break statement. And then it prints the main menu here. Number 1, enter the parking area. Number 2, exit parking area. And number 3, park admin. Then we use the try and except with the handling of the value error right here. And then select input, select either 1, 2, or 3. So it tells the user to input the desired number. And then the value error will trigger if it's a non-integer. And it also prints out, please only input number shown in the main menu screen if it is wrong. And then it continues on to the next code.
Okay, in this part, after we input our menu in the select part in the main menu, we are going to this part where we are going to try this part. After we are going to try and save in this part, after we are going to do something wrong. If the variable in select one is 1, we are going to input the plat number in the plat number. We are going to put number here, and after that we are going to start the parking with start time and time. And after that we are going to input it in the vehicle list, the plat number and the parking duration start is 1. After that we are going to print please enter silakan masuk. And after that we are, if the variable in select is 2, we are going to this part. And if there are not yet vehicle in this vehicle list, or no plat number and no parking duration start, we are going to this rise value error. Then after that we are going to this part. This one. After value error, there's no parking vehicle, not vehicle that have parked in the vehicle yet. So yeah, this and it will going to continue. And after that, if there are vehicle in this one, in the value error, in the vehicle list, we are going to this part. Okay, in this one, I for the variable and vehicle, every vehicle in if every variable in vehicle, we are going to enumerate it. When we number it, we are going to number it in a start with one. Then we are going to print vehicle in parking lot, and first we're going to print this one. Every vehicle singular plate number. So this one. This one. After that, we are going to input plate number exit. After we input the plate number exit, we are going to plate number. Check if the plate number that we enter in this plate number exit they are in the variable. We are going to plate number equals to vehicle plate number for vehicle in vehicle list. And if there are no plate, if there are the plate number in our plate number vehicle list, then we are going to print error plate number is not on the list.
For the next part, in the vehicle list, and you input it correctly in the plate number exit, it will go to the this run command, and it will program parking duration end, which is the time currently, and then after that we will have a new variable called park minutes, which uses math seal, so it rounds up the number to the number above. Calculate park time, brackets, in the brackets, parking duration start, comma, parking duration end per 60. So if we go up here in the function, it uses this function to calculate time to turn it to minutes, and then after that we will print the park time elapsed, which will calculate how many minutes have elapsed since since you parked it in the first menu and then exited in the second menu. And then the parking fee, which will calculate the park fee, which we have in a function. So if it's under 4 minutes, it will discount it normally. If it's below 4 minutes, if it's below 6 minutes or above 4 minutes but still below 6 minutes, it will times 10%, and if it's above 6 minutes, it will times 25% on the fines. And then after that we have payment 1, which we have to pay. We have to input the payment amount. For the user, have to input the payment amount, and then there will be a while loop, which if the payment that we inputted is less than calculated parking fee that is above, it will tell us to input the payment again, as these funds are insufficient. But if the payment is above the calculate park fee function above, it will print the change, which is payment 1 minus calculate park fee, which is the function above again, and payment 1. So this is if there's a change, right? It's gonna calculate park fee. This will be this is connected to the third admin menu later on, and then it will print please exit or silakan keluar. And then for the vehicle list, it will remove plate number, which is the plate number enter above, and then press start. So we won't be using this vehicle anymore, and we have confirmed that this vehicle has exited the parking area. And the vehicle is admin.append vehicle plate number exit, which it will put this the plate number, duration of the parking minutes, and the money that the user inputted. This does not include change, and it will put it in the vehicle list admin list.
Okay, if they selected the number 3, it will go to the admin login here. And then it's gonna print welcome to admin. Number one, print transaction history. Number two, change park fee. Number three, back to main menu. And number four, exit. But before we go to the admin main menu, we have to put in the pin first. And we made the pin. The pin password is password 123. After the password is correct, it will go to the admin menu. And then if they selected one, here one, it will go to the transaction history, which is option one. It iterates, which is the enumerate here, through the vehicle list admin and displays transaction history for each vehicle because of the enumerate function here. And then if they selected option 2, which is change park fee, prompts the admin to update or overwrite the park fee and continues the change. And then the next one is if this option 3, back to the main menu, the script prints a message and continues to the next iteration of the loop. And then option 4, exit. Basically, the script prints a farewell message and exits the program. And then here is the attempts. So then if the attempt of the password is more than 3, it breaks and continues back to the main menu.